my miners of intelligence and consciousness? I'm Rick Brooks, and this is Rick's Mind. Today with me, I have guest Connor Laubenstein from Golf Therapy. What's going on, man? Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to dive into Rick's Mind.
Dude, you don't want to be here. It's a terrible, terrifying place, subject to depression. No, I'm just kidding. Not all the time. Not all the time. Sometimes we do have bummer casts. But, dude, we kind of got connected from a really dear friend of mine who went to the LPGA tour. And she's like, you should talk to this guy named Connor. He's got this podcast called Golf Therapy. And I instantly was like, what the fuck is golf therapy? Like tell me all about it, dude, because I know nothing and I'm very curious.
Yeah, well, I mean, first of all, thanks for having me. It's cool to connect with folks in Portland. I've lived here for 10 years now and I'm actually about to leave. So this is a nice send off. Group Golf Therapy is a podcast that I host with my two work husbands, as I affectionately call them, Bradford Wilson and Drew Westphal. The three of us are creators in the golf space. I'm a writer. I do public relations consulting, marketing consulting, content marketing, things like that. Brad is an actor and a beautiful model, and Drew is also a model and a social media manager by day. The three of us got connected just through social media. I think the three of us were witnessing this sort of cultural sea change that's happening in golf right now. And not really seeing a lot of content out there about the intersection of golf and mental health and emotional health. And it's something that the three of us are on our individual personal journeys on constantly, just day-to-day lives. But it's not something that we've seen really infused within the game of golf. And I guess, on a more broader scale, open conversations in the game of golf haven't really been had. It's been a pretty traditionally closed off culture. And so the three of us have, like I said, really raw, open conversations with guests, with each other about how golf makes you feel. We like to say that we're a mental health podcast disguised as a golf podcast. So it's golf is our Trojan horse for conversations about mental health, and specifically, how men use golf as a means of therapy. Specifically, that's a conversation that gets overlooked quite a bit.
Dude, that is fucking awesome. Like that is, that's very, I'm actually kind of blown away by your description of what you do. I think that it's important I think that it's important that, being men, that we're able to kind of discuss our feelings. And I hate the word toxic masculinity. So I'm never going to use it again, but like it is important to have, male bonding and time with your friends and also be able to be vulnerable. And I hope that if you're listening to this, like, I hope that you have that. I truly do, because I have some of the best friends in the world that have helped me through some really rough times, man. And, I got a few questions. Like, we're going to off topic because I'm super curious. Where are you moving to?
Yeah. So my girlfriend and I are taking off from Portland December 1st. We're going on a big road trip out east. We're going to settle in New York for a few months, and then London is the ultimate game plan.
Like you got a flat in London, or like what's taking you over there? This is fascinating.
We have absolutely nothing planned, nothing booked. Everything is up in the air. We're just itching for an escape and a new change. I'm British by background. My whole family lives over there, and I have British citizenship. So we figured we might as well take advantage of that as an opportunity to try something new.
Yeah, dude. Yeah, we're uncovering a bunch of worms here. This is all. How long did you live in the UK for?
So I've never lived in the UK, and that's actually a big reason that we want to do it, is just to be closer to family morbidly while they're still around, and I can still connect with them and travel across the UK and into Europe and things like that. So yeah, it's personally, I'm feeling all of the range of things right now about leaving. It's bittersweet, it's anxious, it's exciting, it's all of that.
Yeah, man. Change is very important. It's part of growth, man. It's being uncomfortable, getting out of your comfort zone. Like, I'm assuming that this region is home for you. It's comfortable, but the fact that you're willing to step outside of your comfort zone and not necessarily have a plan, you have a tentative idea for what you want to do, is very uncomfortable, and you're going to grow and learn from that experience. Super jealous that you have dual citizenship. John and I have discussed this at length. I want to get that second paper, man. So, funny story. I've looked into this obsessively. There is a program in Ghana called the Coming Home Project, and it is for people of Ghanaian descent. And I don't know. I don't know if I'm of Ghanaian descent, but I could be, allegedly. And you can, the stipulations are like, you have to have a parent or maybe know someone, or like you have to have family, right? Bloodline, to get this. But I figure maybe if I spread enough cash around, they'd be able to grant me one. You can also get a Panamanian
just a few palms, see what happens.
Dude, that's what I'm trying to do, baby. But you can also get a Panamanian passport. It used to be, I believe, it was 4 or 5 G's in a bank account for 2 years, and then you could apply for residency. You didn't have to live there. And then once you got your residency, you could then apply for a passport or citizenship. It's not $5,000. I think it's closer to like 40. You can also buy, I think it's in one of the Caribbean islands, like $150K in investment. You can get citizenship that way. Wow. And in Ireland, it's like 1.2 mil. There's several countries you can do it. What's up, John?
Oh, I was just going to add, there's, New Zealand is essentially giving away passports that if you have, I think even if you have a college degree and you agree to go work there, live there for 5 years, they'll give you citizenship. And I think if you don't have a college degree, it's like 10 and they'll give you citizenship. Like, whoa. No questions asked.
Well, pull that up, dude. I don't believe it.
Yeah, because I know that they're having a New Zealand. I don't know about Australia, but no, New Zealand is having like a birth rate issue, I think.
Dude, pull that shit up. Dude, pull that up. I don't know. I don't know if I believe you. I would have found that. I hope you're right, though. But yeah, man, that's cool. So you connected with your homies through social, but what was it that, like, how did this conversation start?
Yeah, it's truth be told, I don't know. It was sort of a process of months, really, that led us to where we are right now. Like I said, we're all three of us are creators in the golf world, which is a really small community. It's specifically the community of creators that are interested and find value in capitalizing on this cultural sea change, as I put it earlier, that's happening in golf, of breaking down barriers, of making golf more accessible, more diverse, both in terms of who's playing the game and also the school of thought around what you can wear, what music you can listen to, how you play, what types of courses are being built, all of those things. So we noticed each other in the space operating under very similar pretense and having very similar conversations. And it started as a group text, pivoted to an Instagram live, and here we are 20 something episodes deep into a podcast and branching out now into video content, which we've recorded some already of, and traveling and doing events together and things like that. So it's really taken off pretty quickly.
Wow, man. I would. What's up, John?
Oh, so I found the requirements for New Zealand. You have to intend to live in New Zealand, and you have to spend 5 years living there. And as long as you don't have 100 demerit points on your driver's license, or basically have been to prison in the last 7 years, or ever been convicted of a violent crime, 5 years resident status, and you can be a citizen of New Zealand.
Wow. Fantastic. I did not know that at all.
Get on that.
Thank you, John. But that's intense, man. It seems like you're having like rapid growth. So there is like a need for this this podcast, this space that you're creating. Go ahead.
Yeah, I think it's really strange. Golf is experiencing one of the biggest boons that the sport has seen since 1997 when Tiger Woods came on the scene.
Bro,
and
that was awesome.
Just millions of people flooded the game because in 97 when they saw this guy come in, a black man come into the sport, which was before that, like very much swept under the rug. Tiger came in and changed the game. And now you look at the growth of golf, and you can attribute pretty much all of it to the pandemic, which is loaded and interesting. At the beginning of 2020, there were 63 million golfers worldwide. As of today, there are 65 million golfers in the world.
Whoa.
That's a huge increase in the last 18 months or so. And you can attribute that pretty much all to the pandemic. While we were under lockdown, while the UK was under lockdown, golf was one of the only things that you could do to go outside, socialize with people, and people would get together outside, play golf together. But now you have people coming to the sport and saying, hang on, why do I have to wear those corny clothes in order to play this game? Why do I need to play with no music on? Things like that. And that's sort of changing the way that we're experiencing golf culture. So this growth is forcing the capital G golf, as we like to say, to lower its barriers of entry. It's changing the way that clothing brands are approaching the game. Equipment manufacturers are approaching the game. So the whole game is changing. The whole industry is changing, and that's, I think, thanks in part to a terrible set of world events in the pandemic, but also a larger conversation that's happening between creators in the space, of thinkers in the space, people who are eager to see the game grow.
Do you think that they should change the way that they dress? And as like, just for our listeners and for people that are ignorant, kind of explain what the attire is that you need to wear when you're golfing.
If you look on the professional level, I would say dumpy chic, something like that. Equipment, clothing manufacturers at the biggest level, your Adidas's, your Nikes, Ralph Lauren, they want you to believe that you need performance enhancing material in order to play the game comfortably. That means collared shirts made of, Nike dry fit, sweat, moisture wicking fabrics and things like that. That's just not true necessarily. And it also removes a lot of personal style from the game. And so myself and my co-host Drew and Brad and other friends of mine in the industry are saying, we don't need to like compromise our personal style ethics to play golf. Like it's just ridiculous. So, and on top of that, let's buck the sort of like fashion industrial complex that has been put onto golf by equipment manufacturers and apparel manufacturers. So that has birthed a ton of smaller brands that are coming up that fashion themselves much like streetwear companies or menswear companies that are actually catching up or closing the gap between, regular streetwear fashion and the golf industry, which always seems to be about 10 years behind.
Yeah, dude. Yeah. I mean, to be honest, I think I played like one game of golf, and I'm assuming you grew up playing the game. Like, I mean, my next
Not
question would be like, really? So how did you find the game of golf?
I'm a golf accident. I grew up in Boston, in the Boston area. No one in my family played golf growing up. It was, and I didn't grow up with a lot of money. So I in a lot of ways, I resented what I thought golf was and what golf culture was. When I was 16, I started caddying at a local, pretty fancy country club. So carrying bags of players who belong to this country club for money, for cash. Basically, I saw college debt looming over me in the future, and I was thinking, here's a good way to get cash and meet some people and maybe do some networking and things like that.
Yep.
And in that process, I was exposed to a completely different side of golf than I had seen before. I like to say the Caddyshack is the cultural underbelly to golf culture that you typically see. It's, it's really like salty characters who are chain smoking cigarettes and, blowing lines of cocaine off the ping pong table in the back and getting up to all sorts of shenanigans that I was blown away by. Obviously, as a 16-year-old, very interested in the deviant behavior exhibited in front of me. But I was also, taken by the way that they engaged with the game of golf too. It wasn't a country club to them. It was a practice facility, and it was a place where they could, chip around and putt around and play as an 8-some instead of a 4-some, and blast music and play wearing tank tops and flip flops and shirtless, and that exposed me to a side of the game of golf that I'd never seen before, and I was immediately hooked, instantly hooked. And that seeing that culture for the first time when I was 16 infused in me this love of what could be for the entire culture of golf, that it doesn't need to be this one thing that I had previously perceived it to be. And so it was my mission then to let people in on that secret as well.
Dude, that's amazing. That is amazing. So you found the game when you were 16 years old, caddying for cash. Which, by the way, for a 16-year-old, you probably got some pretty nice tips. I always thought about it wasn't bad. It was good move on your part right there. My dumb ass was working at Safeway at that time. Just don't do that, kids. Don't do it.
I'll tell you what. Here, like any young kid in high school should get into caddying. Even if you don't give a shit about golf, it's all cash. It's all under the table. No taxable income. And I could buy weed with cash. So that was great.
Yeah, man. You figured it out. Good on you. Good on you. Speaking of like, so you weren't, do you think Tiger kind of had an impact on you seeking that out when you were 16, or was this kind of still by chance? Do you think there was any?
I mean, I certainly knew who Tiger was when I was 16, and I understood his impact on the game. But I, at the time, and still to this day, don't really give a shit about professional golf. It's not what. Let me rephrase that. I don't really give a shit about men's professional golf. Women's professional golf, I'll support till the cows come home. But men's professional golf, I'm yet to be wowed by the characters that I see on the PGA Tour specifically. I think there's far more interest, specifically as coming from a writer's perspective, far more interest in the seedy underbelly that I described earlier in the Caddyshack, and people who play at municipal golf courses, and people who just are into golf for the hang rather than for the competition.
This is very interesting to me. So, I mean, I guess the next question is like, what do you write about, right? You write about golf, and I'm assuming that the LPGA, correct?
I write some about the LPGA, but mostly I write about caddies, about caddy stories from the perspective of a caddy as a former caddy. And those types of stories until recently haven't really been told. Before I got into golf writing, a lot of the material that you would see was about what clubs is this professional playing, and take a look at Dustin Johnson's wife, who's a professional golfer. But that's not really a story to me. So I'm interested in characters. I'm interested in people and where they come from and why they're playing golf in the first place. So yeah, what I typically try to focus on in my writing is stories about people who are actually changing the game of golf for the better, through their various interests, golf course architects and designers, and caddies.
Where can I find your writing at?
Oh man. So I have a website, thebagbandit.com. And then I'm also featured in different publications online. randomgolfclub.com is one. The Fried Egg is another. And yeah, sort of all over the place.
I'm really curious to, kind of read your work. Like,
yeah, I'll send some along after this.
Yeah, we'll please do. Cause I mean, as someone that pretends to be a writer, generally for a while there, I did like a 75 hard, and I would write. I need to get back into this. I've been telling John this for months now. But I used to write what I would call like a Sunday sermon for the Church of the Chubby, right? Like I was it's still affiliated with my, my website, right? It's a second page there, but like I would write down everything I ate and just really what I was feeling that day. Super cool. And like one of the things I came up with is like, you're the captain of your own spaceship. Like you are the solution to all of your problems. And those are like some of the things. So I do miss like flushing out ideas and stories and just like putting something down. I would say like on a paper, but that's bullshit. It was on like a Word document, but I miss, it's very intriguing. I don't know of a lot of people that do write. And I mean, I write just about every day. I have a form with some friends we've been keeping for, like 5 years now. It's over, I think 750 pages of just like an online journal, or like a document that we share together and we each write. Like, so it's not every day that I get to talk to someone that likes to write. So,
well, I mean, I would even hesitate to say that I like to write. It's almost more of a catharsis. If anything, it's, and I'm happy to hear that you do that every day. I don't write every day. I wish I did. But when I do, it feels therapeutic. It feels like I'm getting something out that needs to come out, be it a short story or an article or a poem or a song, whatever it might be. I think there's beauty and release and catharsis in spilling your thoughts onto a piece of paper or a Word document.
I think so too. I find the same thing. I find that like if I'm not writing in the form, then my homies know what's up. They know that something's going on, and that there might be some level of shame, right? Because I'm not like writing about. And one of the rules that we came up with when we started this years ago was like, it doesn't matter if you just write one thing, you need to write something like as often as you can. Right. And so when we don't post, everyone that's a member knows you're not doing very good. I might need to call them. I might need to see what's up. And then when you get back on there and you write something, you lay your soul out. I'm like, I was fucking up. I was watching too much TV. I was doing this. I was doing that. Whatever it is. So you do write short stories, and do you like interview people? Like kind of. I guess I'm really curious as to what you're writing about within this golf world.
Yeah, it's and I should say recently, writing has taken a backseat because other things have come up that have occupied time. And for me, writing has always been something that I get to do. And, with the advent of the group golf therapy podcast that we're talking about tonight, that it takes a lot of time. And I think the three of us that host that podcast are really open about the act of creating content. Whatever, but that process, and then also like how much that actually requires of you in terms of time and emotional labor and things like that. So admittedly, writing has not been in the past month or so a big focus of mine, and that's something that I really hope to get back into my life and reclaim in the next short period of time. Having said that, I love to do interviews with people. I love doing what we're doing right now and talking about interesting topics and things that get the wheels turning. I love interviews. I love writing little poems that never make it to the light of day. I like, for me, it started with music. I loved writing songs when I was younger and playing music and things like that. And, all the way down to short screenplays and things like that. So for me, it's the process more than it is the product. I think, like I said, it's a cathartic activity for me. And I've just I've been sort of a word geek for my whole life, so it's fun.
Yeah, man, I can relate. I definitely can relate on being a bit of a word geek. And during your podcast, are you typically like interviewing people, or is it just you and the homies getting on there and kind of chopping it up?
Yeah, so we have it's a mixture of both. We, like I said, I think we've released 22 episodes at this point, and I think 25% of them are the three of us just sort of checking in with each other and either responding to listener questions or just coming in with an intention and a prompt, but that the three of us agree on ahead of time. And then the other part of it is, the 75% is interviewing guests who are somewhat related to the golf space. We've been really fortunate with the guests that we've had thus far. Professional golfers, really prominent creators in the space, writers as well, filmmakers, people who have some connection to the world of golf. We invite them into our therapist couch and, have just a really open conversation about how they're doing and let them sort of dictate the topics that we roll through that day.
I'm a fan. I'm in. I'm definitely subscribing after this. It's a very interesting concept. It's I think it's pretty unique, man. Like I the first thing I like is that you said was ask them how they're doing, like, and seeing if you can help, right? Or I think that's a very good thing, and it's something that we're lacking. Like, I just had a conversation about this. We always say, like, how are you? But I mean, how many of us really mean that? I think not enough people really mean those words.
Yeah, and most of the time you're going to get a one-word response back, right? Good. I'm fine. But we mean it, and I think the people that come onto our show know that we mean it. I should also preface everything, or I guess suffice everything that I'm saying. None of us are mental health professionals. That's not the premise of the podcast. We're not coming in saying, "Here, sit down. We're going to solve all of your issues for you." But we are really curious. We ask a lot of questions, and most importantly, I think we're on our own individual journeys with mental health. And I think it should be understood that mental health is not always mental illness or suffering or pain. It's more nuanced than that. It's something that's a little more nebulous and harder to define sometimes. So I think the goal of what we're trying to do is illustrate those nuances and share with people that it's okay to talk about how you're doing, and it doesn't necessarily need to be in such big terms as depression and anxiety and OCD and the big three sort of mental illnesses that stand out to a lot of us. It's deeper than that, and I think can be more nuanced than that.
I definitely agree with that statement. Some part of me, and I took Instagram, like I removed it from my phone. I just had kind of I don't know. I figured I was spending too much time on there. I do sometimes feel like the term, not necessarily mental health, but like, depression and mental illness, right? Like I sometimes feel like it's hip and it's cool right now. And sometimes I feel like that like it might be trendy. I definitely not denying that it exists or anything of that nature. But like, I do think that like in this world that we're living in, there's not enough of this. There's not enough dialogue. There's not enough like caring people. And I feel like if a lot more people had that or had access to it, I think that some of these problems potentially would go away, or maybe you change I don't know. This is like a generalized craziness, or like not generalized craziness, but this is just my own personal theory, which and I'm told could be wrong, but I definitely I like where I like the message. I like the thought process, because there needs to be more needs to be more stuff like that. I think that there definitely needs to be more stuff like that in the world, and you tying those two areas together. I don't know, man, I'm actually pretty blown away. I think that's very awesome and intriguing. Now, the reason you call it golf therapy, is that because you in the crew, were you guys dealing with stuff when you were creating this? Were you all going through something?
Well, I think that's sort of what I'm trying to say, is that we're all going through things all the time. It doesn't necessarily have implications of I'm depressed right now, therefore I identify as a depressed person. I think mental health is purposefully a really generalized term, a really general term. It's something that we all have relationships with our mental health, and we all have a journey with our mental health, and we all have good days and bad days. So yeah, I mean, it's kind of a tough question to answer. I think we're always going through things, the three of us, and we're really open about, days that we're feeling anxious or days that we're feeling low, and days that we're feeling a lot of joy as well. And I think that's something that we try to bring into our podcast sessions every single time we get on the microphone, is joy and beauty as well. It's not just the lows and it's not just the highs. It's all of it all at once. And I think that's what we hope to illustrate to people, is that it's a nebulous, again, I use that word, nebulous and nuanced conversation that floats all over the place. And it's so yeah, we're always going through stuff.
One of the hardest things for me in life, right, is I get such high highs, and generally speaking, it always is going to be followed by a low, and you have to have the lows, because it wouldn't make, if you only had highs, you'd probably get bored, right? But I've wrote this down countless times. I'm flying so high, the spaceship is moving so well, and I don't ever want this. I don't ever want to lose this, whether I'm super disciplined at the time or whatnot. But recently, I feel like my entire life has been how do I have more highs and sustain them longer? Where, in my 20s, I would have, it was up, down. And then, as I got to my later 20s, there's a lot more ups, followed by a little down. And now I've just turned 30. I'm an old man. I am very focused on finding that balance between being hyper disciplined and, maintaining these highs, and trying to mitigate and, hopefully at some point pretty damn near eliminate the low days. But yeah, I haven't figured that out yet. That's something I'm working on.
And also first of all, I appreciate you sharing that. And I would caution you from eliminating all of the low days, because what's that quote? You don't know joy without a little pain. And I think, I believe in that to a degree. Obviously you want to feel good most of the time. That's a good goal to have. But I think it's a really human condition to not feel great all of the time. And I think what we try to communicate on the podcast is to embrace that, to lean into that, and allow yourself to feel some of those moments as well. So yeah, I commend your journey, but I also wouldn't, don't wish away the breadth of emotions that you feel.
I think that's fair. I definitely think that's fair. The issue is it's not so much that, I guess this is a kind of a big thought I'm trying to put into words. I never liked feeling when I'm down. I know that sometimes I've thought it's a choice, right? Sometimes I do believe this. Sometimes I think you can choose to stay down, and I've through my life, or through my short existence, I've realized if I'm working out and I'm eating correctly, and I have a bit of a routine in that section, I generally don't have very many bad days, right? And I think that's attributed to this 75 hard that I've done, and then I did like and I'm not drinking all that much, right? Like during those little fitness challenges, there's no booze, right? That's when I feel like I'm running peak performance, and when I come off of those, like the first time I ended this, I threw a big party, right? And it was awesome. But that was my mistake because I rewarded myself and confused my brain, right? With like, oh, so we're done with that. Like, and then the next time I did it, I didn't do that. So there was no reward. I'm like, this is your lifestyle. This is for however long you can work out twice a day and, eat clean. Like this is just what you do now. And I don't know, a few
That's
months
really
later.
interesting.
Yeah. So I think that, I feel like, delayed gratification, right? And I think that that's a tool. But I'm trying to optimize my life. I'm trying to be rigid and disciplined and like efficient. And that's what I'm trying to do. Now, I'm not 100% sure that's me. I'm not like a Jocko Willink or David Goggins. I definitely love those guys. They're very inspired, but I'm not them. I'm not a fucking Navy SEAL. I'm not a psychopath. So there has to be some lounging days for this guy and some, because I, for some reason, wasn't able to attain that, I've attained it for long periods of time, but I always, at some point, I'll be like, I want to go party, So, and then I get down if I do something like that, it's a process, man.
Yeah, man, it is a process, and it's entirely personal. And I it's just all about finding out what works best for you, to maintain a state that you feel good in. And for me and for Brad and Drew, golf has played a huge role in our therapy. It's our walk outside. It's our, golf gives you a mirror, I think, in a lot of ways. It makes you face yourself, how you respond to failure, how you celebrate success, what you're like in small social groups. And so that's why we're sort of, I guess, beckoning golf onto people.
I love it. What's up, Joan?
I just thought I'd add to the conversation. I appreciate what you're doing.
Thank you.
Mental health is incredibly important. And I think finally people are starting to take account of that and learn that it is not, like you said, it's not just pain. It's basically just maintenance of your brain. And I'm very athletic. My family is a very athletic family. I come from that background. And, like Rick has said, exercising is, fantastic for your mental health, but it's also interesting too, using golf as literally just the game of golf as a distraction for your brain to focus on something else, to pull yourself out of whatever the hell you're dealing with or whatever you're trying to get through. And, that's sometimes the most valuable thing you can do.
Hell yeah. Just, give yourself a distraction. And that's what I keep going back to, is that it's so subjective and it's entirely individualized and personal. For some people, golf is not therapy. For some people, golf is agony and frustrating but for me, it's therapeutic. And the point is, with golf, it's an individual game, so cherish that. And I think the three of us have a lot of issues with people being evangelical about the way that golf should fit into your life. And so that's why we're here, is to give people an opportunity to enjoy the game in their own way.
Well, you can learn a lot of things from sports. And I mean, if you think about the health benefits of golf, you're walking around, you're being physical, you're outside. Most golf courses, in my opinion, are pretty beautiful. Yeah. So that's definitely going to elevate your spirits. Just breathing that fresh air, smelling the grass, until you get in a bunker and then you're fucked. No, I can't chip
and then
to
you
save
just
my
throw
life,
it
dude.
out.
Yeah,
But then you just throw it out, and no one gives a shit.
Yeah, 100%, man. I mean, I've learned a lot of lessons from this. There's this hill by my house. It's called the Death Hill. And that's not what it's called. That's what I call it. It's like a 12% grade.
Do I need to check Google Maps right now?
No. It's like a 12% grade, dude. It's awful. And that hill's taught me so many lessons about perseverance and chipping away. Like I'm a pretty big guy, got a lot of mass, and running. I'm not a runner. I've got friends that, run marathons. It's just not me. But this hill, the first thing it taught, is I thought I was hardcore. I was going to run it the first time. Well, I started walking it because used to be pretty obese, right? And so started walking the hill first, and then eventually, someone from Snap was snapping it. They're like, "Why don't you try running?" And I was like, "Fuck you, I will." And I thought I was going to run up that thing, and I failed miserably, and I kept failing. But each day I would get a little bit farther, and then finally, I kind of hit this limit to where I couldn't. I was stagnated. So I slowed down my pace a little bit, and then I was able to run up that thing. And it's just it's that hill's always going to be there. And one day I'll be able, my thing was one day I'll be able to conquer this. And when I did conquer that, it felt great. There was nothing like it. It was amazing.
Yeah.
And so I definitely am with that. Golf as a therapeutic endeavor. It's not how I use it, but I generally play with the boys, and there is definitely some beers involved 100% of the time.
But maybe that's your therapy too. The point is, just do it your own way, and whatever you get out of it, that's good, and treat it as such. I think. I don't know. It's a concept that we're constantly working through, and is ever changing, I guess. Yeah,
man. I get it. And so what brought about your interest mainly in the LPGA? What interests you in that?
Supporting women. I think honestly, first and foremost, I think, like I alluded to before, I think golf traditionally has supported men, specifically white men, cisgendered straight white men, fill in all of those fucking blanks, more than anyone else. And the storylines that I see on the LPGA Tour, which is the women's major professional tour in the United States, are so much more interesting to me. And it's also, Portland gets an LPGA Tour event here every year. And so that was a really amazing opportunity for me to go and help craft some of the storylines about the tournament coming back to Portland again and again and again. Some of the best the world's best golfers come to our city, and that's a really beautiful thing. And I'm sure both of y'all know this just as well as anyone. Portland supports professional athletes, and specifically supports women's professional athletes. I mean, you go to a Thorns game and that motherfucker's packed, and so it was a real honor to be involved in that tournament. I was the media and PR director for the week, and it was such a joy to get such close FaceTime with those athletes and see how much goes into producing an event like that. And then also, again, just to support women's golf at the highest level. I want to see more of it in our field, and the main media outlets in golf don't do a good enough job promoting the women's game. So that was my goal, to help paint that picture.
Fuck yeah, man. That's awesome. That is awesome. And I'm pretty ignorant of both the LPGA and the PGA, but from what our mutual friend stated, it was incredible. And
that's right. Yeah, she had a good time.
She had a great time. She had she had a fantastic time there. And well, man, I want to be respectful of your time. I really appreciate you coming on the show. Let people know where they can find you again.
Yeah. So my podcast is called Group Golf Therapy. Me and my two hosts, Bradford Wilson and Drew Westphal, host that thing. We're branching into video content as well and events. And when is this going to air? Do you know?
Yeah, it's going to air next week.
Okay, cool. So one thing that I'm really excited to announce that will be live by the time that this drops is Group Golf Therapy is releasing an artist collaboration series this Friday. So it will be last Friday by the time this is heard, in which we've partnered with 3 graphic artists who make logos and designs in the golf space, and we'll be putting those on sale to raise money for mental health organizations across the country. So all proceeds, all profits will be donated to those organizations. There's 3 prints that we're going to be selling that'll be, framed and printed, and people can hang them in their houses. And it's just a really fun and meaningful and impactful sort of holiday initiative that we're trying to do this year to showcase some really powerful and impactful mental health organizations, but also give these artists some love and also showcase that we're not just just the podcast. We're doing other things as well and building and growing.
Fantastic. You heard it here first, folks. Well, Connor, it's a pleasure, man. I'm definitely going to have you on again. And I wish you all the best, man, in all your endeavors. And I hope that you guys raise a bunch of money.
Thank you. Yeah. Thanks for having me on. This was fun.
Yeah, man. Fuck yeah. All right, folks. You heard it here. Thanks for listening. Love you guys. Dude, that was fucking awesome.